Therefore, my brothers and sisters, whom I love and long for, my joy and crown, stand firm in the Lord in this way, my beloved. I urge Euodia, I urge Syntyche to be of the same mind in the Lord. Yes, and I ask you also, my loyal companion, help these women, for they have struggled beside me in the work of the gospel, together with Clement and the rest of my co-workers, whose names are in the book of life. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. And the God of peace will be with you.
First off, I want to say thank you to the Reverend Julie Nelson for leading in worship last weekend while I was away on vacation. It is a great comfort to have a cadre of colleagues who are willing to preach while I'm away, as it lets me rest easy knowing that you are in good hands. This week, as I return to church on Sunday morning, we return to Paul's letter to the church at Philippi for some of his closing thoughts. For me, Philippians is one of the most pastoral of Paul's letters, and as a result, it resonates deeply with me. Paul is writing to a community of believers who are struggling to follow Christ, as they learned under Paul's tutelage. There's a conflict in the church, which is something we understand all too well in today's day and time. Because we only have Paul's side of the conversation, we don't know what the nature is of the conflict, but we do know that it certainly involves two women, Euodia and Syntyche, which brings up an interesting observation. In parts of the Christian tradition, the epistles are often used to justify barring women from leadership roles in the church. And yet, here are two women who struggled beside me in the work of the gospel, Paul says, and whose names are written in the book of life. As has been the case here at Marshfield Christian Church, the church, God's beloved community, is so much better off when leadership represents the amazing diversity of all of God's beloved children, regardless of any identifying factors. That affirmation leads into the often quoted verse 4, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again I say, rejoice." This is an important reminder to keep our eyes, our heart, our ears, and our soul focused on God and God's amazing, unmatched grace. But that isn't always easy, is it? Rejoicing in God in the midst of a pandemic can be difficult. Rejoicing when we're trying to cope with new and unexpected landscape in the midst of conflict and chaos is almost too much to ask. Rejoicing in the midst of criticism takes divine intervention. And rejoicing while racial intolerance and gender inequality harm and even kill our siblings, well, that can feel wrong. It's essential to remember that in these verses, Paul is not encouraging us to be joyful about the struggles of life, but to find comfort and joy in the assurance of God's presence within those struggles. We don't look to find God when the struggle is over, rather to find God's presence in the midst of the grit and of the grime. This is Paul's pastoral heart coming to the forefront. He can sense the immense struggles of the church at Philippi, and he does what he can to bring hope and healing in the midst of that strife. May Paul's words echo through the years to your heart and soul today. May each of us, may all of us find joy in God's presence, and in that joy find the strength to struggle to do the work of the gospel together with one another and with God.